Ladies and gentlemen, gather around because what I'm about to share will absolutely shock you. If you've been following 90 Day Fiancé, you know the roller coaster stories we've seen over the years, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared us for this bombshell. Yes, I'm talking about Shekinah and Sarper, the couple that once seemed unstoppable, now officially heading for divorce. Can you believe it? It all started with whispers. Rumors floating on social media, subtle hints dropped by friends, and cryptic posts from Shekinah herself. But nobody, and I mean nobody, expected the headline that finally broke the internet. Shekinah and Sarper are getting divorced. Boom.
Just like that.
Fans everywhere were stunned. The couple that had given us so many dramatic, tear-filled moments suddenly became the headline everyone was talking about. And let me tell you, the first twist in this story? It's not what you think. While many assumed this was a typical relationship fallout, the truth is far more complex, far more shocking. Imagine being a fan, scrolling through your feed and seeing Shekinah's post. A carefully worded caption, a single tear emoji, and the words, "It's time for a new chapter." That's it. Nothing more. And yet, those words sent shockwaves across the 90 Day Fiancé community. Comments poured in. What happened? Are they really over? This can't be real. And honestly, you couldn't blame them. And then came the twist, the very first twist that no one saw coming. While everyone was focused on the breakup itself, there was another layer. The divorce wasn't just about disagreements or misunderstandings. It involved deep cultural clashes, family pressures, and secrets that had been bubbling beneath the surface for months. Secrets that, until now, nobody outside their inner circle had any clue about. Tonight, we're going to break it all down for you. Every shocking detail, every tearful moment, every twist and turn that led to this moment. We're diving deep into the story of Shekinah and Sarper, the love, the fights, the drama, and the ultimate heartbreak. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why this isn't just another 90-day fiancé breakup. This is a story with layers, intrigue, and twists that even the most die-hard fans didn't see coming. So buckle up, because the roller coaster of Shekinah and Sarper's love and eventual heartbreak is just getting started. All right, everyone, before the heartbreak, before the tears, before the divorce rumors set the internet on fire, there was a love story. A story that, for many fans, seemed like a modern fairy tale with a twist. Yes, I'm talking about Shekinah and Sarper. Let's rewind and go back to the very beginning, because to truly understand what went wrong, we need to see how it all began. It all started like so many other 90-day fiancé stories, sparks flying across continents. Shekinah, vibrant, independent, and determined to make her mark, met Sarper, charming, confident, and with that undeniable charisma that made every camera focus on him. From the moment they met, fans were drawn in. The social media posts, the first encounters, even the smallest gestures, the way Sarper looked at Shekinah, the way Shekinah laughed at his jokes, it was all perfect, almost cinematic. Now, here's something interesting. Unlike some other 90-day couples who clash immediately, Shekinah and Sarper seemed to click instantly. Their first interactions were filled with energy, humor, and undeniable chemistry. Viewers watched as Shekinah's eyes lit up every time Sarper was near. And Sarper? He seemed completely captivated. The kind of love that makes you root for the couple from the very first scene. But of course, as we all know with reality TV, what looks perfect on camera often hides a more complicated reality. Even in those early days, there were small red flags that many fans didn't notice. Subtle hints in their conversations, slight disagreements over cultural expectations, little things that, at the time, seemed trivial. But as we'll see later, those little cracks would grow into much larger fractures. Let's talk about the engagement. Yes, the engagement. Fans were ecstatic. Posts flooded in, congratulations, memes, reactions, theories about wedding dates. It seemed like a dream come true. But here's the first clue that things weren't entirely as rosy as they appeared. Behind the camera, tensions were already simmering. Decisions about wedding plans, family expectations, even social media posts became battlegrounds. Shekinah, strong-willed and fiercely independent, had her own ideas about how their life together should look. Sarper, on the other hand, came with his own vision, shaped by his cultural background, family traditions, and personal expectations. And while these differences might seem small in a normal relationship, when you throw cameras, producers, and millions of viewers into the mix, even minor disagreements can turn into major conflicts. Fans remember the scenes fondly, the trips, the adventures, the intimate moments they shared. Remember that one date where Sarper surprised Shekinah with flowers? She was glowing. Or the moment he helped her with a project and she couldn't stop smiling? Those moments were real, raw, and unforgettable. But behind those smiles, the first whispers of tension were beginning. And let's not forget the cultural layer. Sarper, coming from a different country, had expectations shaped by his upbringing. Shekinah, confident and self-made, had her own perspective shaped by her experiences. Early on, these differences sparked curiosity, playful teasing, and sometimes light disagreements. But over time, they revealed deeper mismatches in priorities and values. Now, here's where things get really interesting. During the filming of their season, producers noticed the dynamic between them. Unlike other couples who might struggle quietly, Shekinah and Sarper had an intensity that made every scene electric. Arguments weren't just arguments. They were theatrical, heartfelt, and sometimes heartbreaking. But when they reconciled, the chemistry returned stronger than ever. This push and pull, this dramatic tension, made them fan favorites. Everyone wanted to see if they would overcome the obstacles, or if the obstacles would ultimately tear them apart. Social media played a huge role in amplifying their story. Fans followed every update, every post, every cryptic comment. It was a mix of support, curiosity, and sometimes judgment. And while Shekinah and Sarper often laughed off the scrutiny, the constant public spotlight added pressure. Every decision they made, every interaction they had, was subject to public opinion. This isn't just a couple navigating love. It's two people performing love for millions of viewers while also trying to maintain their private reality. But let's talk about the real heart of their love. At its core, Shekinah and Sarper genuinely cared for each other. There were moments that no one could fake. Sarper staying up late to comfort Shekinah when she was stressed, Shekinah standing by Sarper when his family caused friction, the quiet moments of intimacy that weren't meant for cameras. These moments showed that their love was real, even if the story we would eventually witness on screen would take a darker turn. Now, as the engagement progressed, cracks began to appear in a more pronounced way. Differences in communication styles, disagreements over financial decisions, and conflicting visions of the future started to surface. And while they were often able to reconcile, each argument left a mark. Little by little, the perfect love story began to reveal its imperfections, clues that, in hindsight, made the eventual divorce seem inevitable. By the time they tied the knot, fans were ecstatic, but insiders were already noting tension. Sarper, under pressure to meet expectations both from family and fans, sometimes became distant. Shekinah, with her own career and aspirations, sometimes felt unheard. These are the classic signs of misaligned priorities in high-pressure relationships. And on a reality TV set, there's no room for private reflection. Everything is magnified. And let's not forget the external drama, the friends, the family, the critics. Every loved one had opinions, advice, and warnings. Some of it constructive, some of it destructive. And while Shekinah and Sarper tried to navigate it all together, the outside voices created additional stress, further highlighting differences they hadn't fully addressed before marriage. But what truly captivated fans was the emotional roller coaster. The laughter, the tears, the arguments, the reconciliation. All of it was intense, authentic, and gripping. By this point, everyone watching could sense the intensity of their connection. It wasn't a calm, gentle love. It was passionate, fiery, and occasionally explosive. And this intensity is exactly why fans were glued to their story, rooting for them, hoping against hope that love would conquer all. And yet, the first cracks were undeniable. Even during the happiest moments, Subtle hints emerged, lingering glances that weren't quite there, moments of silence that felt heavier than they should, disagreements that escalated quicker than before. If you're paying attention, the signs were always there. Reality TV gives us a magnifying glass, and through that lens, the first inklings of trouble were visible. By the time the cameras captured their first major argument post-marriage, fans had a mix of shock and intrigue. How could two people so obviously in love fight so intensely? But here's the truth. Love isn't simple. Passion isn't always peaceful. And for Shekinah and Sarper, the intense love they shared was a double-edged sword. It created magical moments, but also set the stage for future heartbreak. So, as we look back on the love story that started it all, one thing is clear. This wasn't just a casual fling, a fleeting romance, or a showman's for cameras. This was two people who believed in love, who fought for love, and who experienced the highs and lows of an intensely public relationship. And while the eventual divorce would dominate headlines, the love story itself, flawed, passionate, and unforgettable, remains an essential chapter in the saga of Shekinah and Sarper. As we move into the next chapter, we'll begin to uncover the red flags and tensions that nobody saw coming. Those small disagreements, the cultural clashes, and the subtle cracks in communication, all of which would eventually lead to the first shocking divorce twist. Stay tuned, because what comes next is where the story gets truly explosive. Alright, everyone, buckle up, because now we're getting into the part of the story that really explains why Shekinah and Sarper's relationship went from seemingly perfect to an all-out heartbreak. This is where the magic starts to fade, where cracks begin to appear, and where the red flags, yes, the very ones that many fans didn't notice, start waving like warning signs in plain sight. Let's start with communication. If you've ever been in a relationship, you know that communication is everything. It's the glue that holds two people together. And in Shekinah and Sarper's case, it was the first real challenge. Early on, their chemistry masked their differences. They laughed together, shared intimate moments, and seemed to understand each other perfectly. But behind closed doors, the story was very different. Sarper, charming and confident as he was on camera, sometimes struggled to express vulnerability in the way Shekinah needed. Shekinah, independent and outspoken, wanted open dialogue and emotional transparency. When arguments arose, and trust me, they did, Sarper would often withdraw, creating a gap that slowly grew over time. And Shekinah, frustrated by the silence or lack of acknowledgement, would push harder for answers. It's a classic cycle. Push, withdraw, push harder. Now, here's where the red flags start piling up. Remember those moments where Sarper seemed overly controlling, almost subtly dictating decisions? Fans might have laughed it off as playful teasing, but behind the scenes, Shekinah often felt restricted. Whether it was about household decisions, social media posts, or even minor day-to-day choices, these small power struggles created tension. Over time, tension grows. And when left unresolved, tension becomes resentment. Cultural differences also played a major role. Sarper's background shaped his expectations of family roles, respect, and certain traditions that Shekinah didn't always align with. And Shekinah, coming from a different culture and being fiercely independent, sometimes pushed back. These cultural clashes may have seemed minor on camera, but in reality, they were foundational cracks that would influence nearly every major disagreement in their marriage. Then there were financial pressures. Yes, money. The silent, unspoken stressor in so many relationships. Shekinah had her own career, ambitions, and financial independence. Sarper had expectations shaped by family traditions and personal pride. Negotiating finances became another battlefield. Who pays for what? Who controls the accounts? Who sets the priorities? Arguments about money are rarely just about money. They reveal values, power dynamics, and long-term compatibility. And for Shekinah and Sarper, those debates became emotionally charged, leaving both feeling unheard and unappreciated. Let's talk about family. Every reality TV fan knows that family is a huge influence in 90-day fiancé relationships. For Shekinah and Sarper, family dynamics were intense. Sarper's family had expectations, boundaries, and opinions that sometimes conflicted with Shekinah's autonomy. Shekinah's loved ones, protective and invested, wanted the best for her, but occasionally clashed with Sarper's decisions. And when the cameras aren't rolling, these family conflicts became real, raw, and draining. Here's another red flag that many fans missed: emotional dependency. While their love was intense, Shekinah sometimes felt she had to constantly reassure Sarper, and Sarper, in turn, often expected Shekinah to navigate around his insecurities. This created a delicate balance, where the relationship relied on continuous emotional labor rather than mutual, easygoing understanding. Over time, that imbalance takes a toll. Then came the arguments that went beyond what cameras captured. Reality TV only shows snippets, the highlight reels, the dramatic confrontations, the edited storylines. But behind the scenes, there were heated arguments that lasted hours, sometimes late into the night. Small disagreements about schedules, responsibilities, or social interactions would escalate. And while they often reconciled, each fight left a residue of frustration, doubt, and emotional exhaustion. Fans may remember moments where Shekinah appeared upset on social media, posting cryptic messages or disappearing for a while. Those weren't just for drama. They were her way of coping with tension, trying to process the stress, and seeking space. And Sarper, while charming on camera, sometimes didn't fully grasp the emotional weight Shekinah carried, leading to feelings of neglect. Let's talk about trust, the cornerstone of any marriage. Even subtle doubts can fester over time. While there wasn't a single betrayal that sparked the divorce, the accumulation of small trust issues, misunderstandings, miscommunications, and differing expectations created an emotional rift. And as we all know, once trust is chipped, even slightly, it's incredibly hard to repair fully. Now, here's where things take a dramatic turn. Many couples have disagreements, yes. Many couples face cultural differences, family pressure, or financial stress. But Shekinah and Sarper's story had another layer: the public factor. Every argument, every resolution, every tear was magnified for millions of viewers. Social media didn't just watch, they judged. And when every misstep is dissected, every miscommunication analyzed, the pressure becomes almost unbearable. And here comes the crucial point. The red flags weren't just external, they were internal. Both Shekinah and Sarper carried emotional baggage from past experiences. Shekinah had past relationships that shaped her boundaries, her expectations, and her fears. Sarper had his own history that influenced how he responded to stress, criticism, and intimacy. Combine these internal factors with external pressures, and you get a relationship that is emotionally volatile, even at its strongest moments. Fans may remember the episodes where they fought about minor things, household chores, social interactions, or misunderstandings about intentions. On the surface, they seem trivial, even humorous. But anyone who's been in a relationship knows that small disagreements are often symptoms of larger problems. And in Shekinah and Sarper's case, these small disagreements foreshadowed a much bigger storm. Let's not forget the role of the producers. Reality TV isn't just a camera pointing at couples, it's a narrative shaped by editors, storylines, and dramatic pacing. Arguments were amplified, reconciliations were highlighted, and emotional moments were framed for maximum impact. While this doesn't cause a divorce, it adds stress, magnifies insecurities, and forces couples to perform love under pressure. By this point, anyone watching closely could see the patterns forming: withdrawal, frustration, cultural misunderstandings, emotional labor imbalance, financial stress, family interference, and constant public scrutiny. It was a perfect storm of red flags. And yet, the couple still tried. They still fought for love, still reconciled, still laughed together. That's the tragic part. The love was real, passionate, and intense. But love alone wasn't enough to bridge all the gaps. And as the red flags accumulated, they became impossible to ignore.